Alright, so how y'all doing boys? Hope you're doing well. Now in today's video, not doing a PvP video for, it's very rare that I actually don't do PvP videos, but going to do a guide on the bird, or not so much a guide, but more just like my opinions and any tips or tricks, pretty much just anything related to the bird and whether or not you're using the King or Meliodas strategy, and anything to come up with the bird in the next coming update, because there are a couple, new things and whatnot being added and changed about the bird. But I only just got home, gone ahead and did my 3 stages of the HRAESVELGR raid. This is all pre-recorded as well, these actual matches, but I ended up getting all of them done first try, so these weren't particularly lucky runs. If anything, like the first run actually did have one thing that was like pretty big downfall, so I did get a little bit unlucky in that one. Fairly unlucky in the third floor, especially with the final, like one of the passives he got. In the second floor, we did get a little bit of luck, but it is what it is. But I'm going to jump into it here. I do actually go ahead and show off the gear and whatnot I'm running. I don't go ahead and show percents just yet. Towards the end of the video, I will show all the percents of the gear and everything along those lines. But one thing I will say just as we're starting this is this card set here, the Ragnarok one, can easily be switched out for the healing card set, or on the JP version they have the new card set that has HRAESVELGR card set, or like the Demonic Beast card set. Can easily swap it out for either of those. But jumping into this first floor here, ever since Meliodas and the King have released, this first floor has pretty much become a joke. Like, I'm not really going to go ahead and explain too much in this first one, just because I feel like as long as you have them and you know what to do in the fourth phase and like you save up cards, you should be alright. But game plan pretty much is we use 2 single target cards each turn, build up the second half of the melee passive where he slowly gets the grey buffs, damage resistance, or damage reduction should I say, up to 40%. And then in the final phase we spam off all of our power strike cards or any melee single target cards. But yeah, as you can see here, like, we don't deal an awful lot of damage in the first floor. I would honestly say the first floor and the second floor are just about even in difficulty. The third floor there is definitely, just a little bit of a jump. That first phase as well can be pretty hard. Like, if you have the healing card set, it can save you a bunch, which funnily enough, I actually don't have the healing card set. I would by all means run it if I had the means to do so, but this team here, definitely one of the better teams in the game. You can use this or either substitute the the Meliodas out for the King. If not, you can also use, there is a Miguelda strategy, which does get a lot better when she gets her Holy Relic, which should happen within the next couple days. I don't know what they're doing with the update at the moment, but basically her passive, or her Holy Relic, is just like an extra buff to her passive, and she also gets a cleanse out of it, which is really big, especially for that third floor. On the first phase, there is like a block effect that gets put on you, so you can't use 2-star and 3-star cards, and it can be pretty annoying. Also, main reason I go for the 2-star card there before I rank up is I just pretty much want to last as long as possible in these first couple floors of the battle before, just build up as many good cards as possible for that fourth phase. But that's the thing, this first floor is one of the only ones where you pretty much don't have any turns other than the final one, where you actually have to do anything in a certain amount of time. Like, you can spend an infinite amount of turns in, phase 1 to 3. It's more once you start getting into that second floor, which, like, in phase 2, obviously, if you run out of taunts, he just does the big AoE hit, which you can actually survive. I'm not going to get into an awful amount, but if you can max out the melee passive and you have the green Arthur, you can manage to do so. Got a whole bunch of good cards here. Saving the Brunhild ultimate for the final phase. What you want to do is obviously throw out your power strike cards, because the bird just gets a whole bunch of resistance, so you ignore the resistance, do a whole bunch of damage, and then you finish it off with the ultimate. That way you get a bit of lifesteal. You can go into the next phase with as much health as possible, but if you don't get the crit, you pretty much do no damage. I have a 6/6 Brunhild, and you'll see I missed the crit, which was super unfortunate. It was like one of the bigger downsides of this actual run, pretty much in this first whole floor. I was going to reset, but I figured it is what it is. It's a pretty good enough run anyways, so don't really have to worry about that. But yes, no, definitely want to be trying to finish off these phases, or at least these floors, going into the next one with as much health as possible. And we actually get really good finisher on the second floor going into the third one. But if you guys do, need help with the bird by any means, just whether it's team building, anything along those lines, I will try and, respond to any comments in the comments section down below. If, of course, whilst you're down there, go ahead and hit the like button. I mean, it is, of course, free and it does help me out a ton. Really means the world to me as well. So let's see, going into this fourth phase here, we will wait out, obviously, the first turn. Just throw out a couple cards, because if you guys don't know, you are also capped on how much damage you can do to 30%. So as you'll see when we start throwing out the Brunhild 3-star card, I think it's like 156,642 damage will do. Let's see how close I am to that. Yeah, there we go, right on the mark. That goes to show how much I've just no-lifed this bloody game, but there we go. I'm gonna finish this first floor pretty easy. The second one is definitely hard, and if you can, or at least the first floor once again can be a little bit more tough. I'll explain it a little bit more when we get into it, but I would definitely like to try and get the Miguel the Holy Relic and change up the strategy when it comes out. I would really like to live stream the bird as well, but once again, the Wi-Fi just isn't really good enough. I live in Australia and that would just be a nightmare, but as you can see, we'll throw out the Brunhold ultimate here. 6/6 attack, crit damage gear, granted not attack rolls, but only 3,000 damage, so very, very small heal there, but we managed to beat the bird, and on both of the first two floors, I didn't manage to get any of the blue crystals, which is, it's whatever. I managed to get quite a few on that final one as well, but let's see, jumping into the rewards here. Taking quite a while to get to them. Yeah, look at that. Just a bunch of cubes, so I draw the sad face there. Let's actually go ahead and skip on to the second floor. Perfect, so pretty much what we want to be doing. This first phase, you can save up. It's, once again, I don't really think you can die in this first phase. It's pretty much the same as floor 1, but you do want to have a taunt ready for the second phase. Now, I do go ahead and use mine in this first turn, just since we aren't at max HP. If we did, or were to get really unlucky, and he was like, throw out an AoE card, get the debuff on us, and start weak point spamming into Gotha, there's definitely a chance we die. Also getting a really good merge on the rank up there, really nice. And we also got the 2 taunts as well, which is the main thing. The second fall, pretty much have to have a taunt up. If you don't have a taunt up at the end, he will throw out attack, which you'll see when he gets to it, will do 0 damage. If you don't have that there, he will one tap you. So one thing that can also be annoying on that second stage, or second phase should I say, is there is one of the passives you can get where he removes buffs every turn. So obviously Matrona's taunt lasting 3 turns, you don't have to worry about it for a little bit, but if that does happen, you do have to get just a tiny bit luckier, or you will have to go ahead and just rush the turn, get into the third phase as fast as possible. It's a little unfortunate, but the third phase is, once again, a little bit weird. You do kind of want to save all of your damage cards for that third phase. Sometimes, honestly, when doing the bird, I just completely forget what I'm supposed to do in a phase, so I've actually written down in my notes just a small thing where I'm just having a complete mind blank, but here we go, ranking up. There is, once again, you'll see Brunhold can be swapped out for a whole bunch of units. I've actually seen a lot of people prefer to use Blue Escanor as well, especially for, like, if you get like the revive passive or anything along those lines. Having his ultimate at 6/6 is just, the one Escanor is just an absolute menace. He's such a good unit. Let's see here though, pretty bad card draw, honestly, on all the extra pumpkin bombs. I do think we actually managed to kill in this turn as well, or we might actually be just shy from what I remember, which, once again, nothing terrible. This run especially, like, just isn't anything like particularly good. It's just like, just your average run. The game has gotten so much easier with all this power creep and everything that's happened, and honestly, I'm really keen to actually try out the new beast battle when it drops. We were supposed to get the patch notes yesterday. It's now, at the time of recording this video, it's Wednesday. I usually get them Tuesday afternoon where I am. Proccing the revive with the go through ultimate there, and then finishing off with the pump gun bombs. Now, if you do get into that phase and you don't have a taunt, there is no point in trying to just kill and proc revive and just move on to the next phase in the one turn, because once again, is capped out at doing 30% per card. Even if all of your cards hit the damage cap, you do the 3, you do the 4th one, you proc revive, he still has that tiny slither of HP, he'll realize you don't have the taunt and then just one tap. So as long as you have 1 turn of taunt, you can pretty much rush it in 2 turns. This turn here, the way I do it is pretty much start the turn, you want to do anywhere from like here damage and downwards. Like, you can do, as long as you've just done a little bit of damage in that first turn, you will pretty much be fine, but in the next turn, you pretty much just want to spam cards and get rid of him. The whole reason you do that is because I think it's every time you get him below 50 or something along those lines, every time you get him below a certain percentage of HP, he revives back to full. So you don't have to worry about, getting him below that in a single card. It's more at the end of the turn. If he's still below 50 and hasn't been killed, he will go back to full HP, which I definitely should have used the Matrona ultimate first there in order to get an extra buff on melee, but that was where I actually got really lucky and we managed to kill regardless. But going into the final phase here, we have melee ult, we have a whole bunch of melee cards, a fair few buffs on him as well. We managed to get the 3-star Gotha rank up, so at this point we were sitting really, really pretty. just pretty much deciding on what hand I wanted to go with. There's not really any way I could lose at this point. Like, this phase just doesn't do enough damage. Once again, you don't really need to worry about the blue buffs he builds up over time, because as you'll see, I just managed to cleave through them. Damage capped on this phase as well at the 212,000, but finishing off there with the Brunhold ultimate with the crits, so everyone will be nice, fully topped up for when we get into, look at that HP. Brunhold is honestly just such a fun unit. I wish there was a little bit more activities she could be used in. I also wish she wasn't restricted to PvE, but here we go, onto the infamous third floor of HRAESVELGR. There are some turns in here where I do actually take a little bit to decide what I'm going to do. Not really more just me thinking, there are actually quite a few misplays. Not anything major that I'd have to reset over, but just like maybe using certain single target cards after melee, not getting the extra buff, stuff like that. And if you guys ever do have a turn where you messed up, if you go ahead and close or just like restart the app right before it flicks over to the, let's just say in this case, the bird's turn, just before it finishes your turn, if you close the app and then reopen it, we'll ask you to join back in. You can press OK and you can restart your turn. This does work in pretty much anything other than the guild boss, so I'm guessing it's intended to be in the game because it originally did work in guild boss and then they removed it because people would just keep resetting until they got like crits on certain things, and you could pretty much just get perfect runs if you had the patience. But let's see here. Now, this first phase of floor 3, definitely one of the harder ones, and it does come down to sometimes just how well you can survive. Having Miguelda or the healing card set here definitely helps out a bunch. If not, you are pretty much relying just on your Brunhold ultimate for healing. As you can see, Halloween Matrona is such a good unit and so necessary for these that I honestly feel bad for a lot of people that don't have her. Like, the Halloween Gotha is like a very exclusive character as well and can be replaced for the Red Queen Shop Gotha, but I don't think there's any other units in the game that just tank as well as the Halloween Matrona does. But there hasn't been pretty much any banners whatsoever that I would say are worth summoning for where you can get her as well. They do have I believe she's actually out in the Sariel banner at the moment, but once again, I wouldn't really recommend summoning on Sariel. Main reason you would want to, just look at that. She takes so much damage, it's absurd. And then of course, like I said earlier, you have that blockade effect coming in, so can't use any 2-stars, but if you were to have the Miguelda Holy Relic, her buffing you up to, well, whenever you heal to full HP, you get an extra buff. That in turn helps Melee's Amplify effect. And she does also cleanse the most recent debuff put on her. That's part of her Holy Relic. So you would lose the blockade and you could start throwing out the 2-star and 3-star cards, which is really important because if we go ahead and read all of his passives, one of them is he takes, I think it's 80% less damage from rank 1 cards. So 2-star cards, 3-star cards, and ultimates are where you will be dealing your damage. Still managing to hold on at this point. The reason why the Meliodas team is just so much better than the King team, especially for this third floor, is just because this first phase lasts so long. We've already got 3 of his grey buffs. The max is 5, of course. We're not even into the second phase yet, and he's gonna be pretty much maxed out. So your survivability just gets so much better once you max out the passive. Throwing out the Brunhold ultimate there. Nice damage there, getting the heal. And here was one thing that I was like, are you for real? Look at that. Throwing out the Pumpkin Bombs, just short of killing. It's not like we can really get another like grey buff off this turn or anything, so I think I just end up merging the taunt cards and anything like that. But getting into the second phase, why am I forgetting what the second phase does? Let's think. So second phase, you do want to have a Matrona taunt, or at least taunt of any kind, because in the third phase it is very important that you kill as quick as possible. Don't get me wrong, the fourth phase is kind of the same, or at least you want to get off a lot of damage, but in the second phase, whoever the bird attacks, it will delete all of the cards off. So obviously, if you want to build up cards as much as possible for Brunhold and Meliodas for that third floor, you don't want to have them attacked and just have them delete all of your ultimates and 3-star cards. So having that taunt up with Matrona, super important. You will actually see it come into effect in, I think, straight away he'll attack into it and all of those cards will get deleted. So pretty much just chucking out everything we have. I probably should have used the 2-star taunt just to get a little bit longer out of it. We still got 3 turns, but it should have just been a tiny bit tankier, so it is what it is. The Matrona ultimate as well, the fact that it removes ultimate gauge when it deranks cards is also very, very helpful. Some phases where, let's just say you're getting really bad card draw, if you don't manage to have a go through ultimate in your hand, you can use that as well, just to start that extra turn. Most of the time you want to be killing if it can manage to save you having to take another ultimate. It's just nice having the HP, but let's see, I think in this part here, I more just tossed up, because we have a whole bunch of melee cards and Brunhold cards, just tossing up between which ones I want to keep for the third phase to try and kill quick. and then which ones I want to use in this turn to finish him off pretty much. I do think we actually managed to kill in this next turn as well. I rank up Brunhold. I think I merge cards there. No, and then I rank up Melee. Yeah, there we go, perfect. So ranking up Melee. This third floor, pretty much every single turn that goes by, the bird will place grey debuffs on you. And as the turns go on, they get worse and worse. So first turn, I think he places a grey debuff, which disables debuff skills. The second one, it pretty much gets worse and worse. I think by the third turn, you get attack disabled, and that's grey. And at that point, you can't throw out attack cards that can't be cleansed. You pretty much lose. So this is definitely up there with the final phase, one of the more important phases, or probably the most important phase of this battle. So, of course, trying to get as many buffs for Meliodas before we start using these cards. I know we're not going to be able to kill him in one turn. I'm pretty sure this phase is also damage capped to 30%, so it's impossible to have it done. So throughout the melee card here, we do actually, I think, hit that damage cap, which is really nice. 316,000 damage off him there. And having these cards as well, especially for the final phase, that buff removal card is so important, because when he pops his ultimate, there is actually a turn where he does get evasion and you can't do anything to him. So having the buff removal cards from Matrona is really nice. Also, if you're using the Meliodas, you can use his ultimate that does also remove buffs. If you're using King, you can actually use his heal and his ultimate, sorry, and it cleanses, which is another huge thing, because I do think there is actually a point in this battle where I get a whole bunch of debuffs on me, and it's just not good. The only advantage the Meliodas has that the King doesn't is it removes stances, but in the Demonic Beast battle, you don't really have to worry about stances. That's more of a PvP thing, so just shy of killing him there. Fortunate for us, there is no revive passive or anything along those lines. And here, of course, is where he gets those extra buffs. So there the evasion is there. We can still hit him with the ultimates, but don't really want to waste any ultimates here. I do think we actually go ahead and chuck out the Gotha one, just because there's no point really keeping the Gotha ultimate. If you're getting through the phases fast enough, you don't have to worry about tanking any ultimates. You'll be fine. Even I have my Halloween Gotha 4/6. It doesn't do enough damage. Removing those buffs there, we'll throw out the AoE card. And that gets us onto the final phase, which on the final phase, this is the, yes, okay, so unfortunately, as you see there, we get the symbol pop up. We get the worst passive there is, which is the revive passive. So I was kind of disappointed with it at the time. I was like, oh, damn, I might actually lose this run, but the fact that we actually got a bad passive and I still managed to do it with some mediocre card draw. I mean, we only have like one gold melee card at this point. It definitely better for the showcase, showing how, like, you know, the content has definitely gotten a lot easier with time, but throwing those out, there we get the Meliodas ultimate, which ended up doing a lot more than I expected. You do, of course, want to have the demon as low as possible. The more HP he has in this final phase, the more damage he does. So, you know, first turn you want to get him as low as possible, does as little damage as possible. He does have a weak point single target there as well, which, as you can see, absolutely tears through Gotha. Really fortunate as well that he went for Gotha there, because that means in our next turn we can taunt with Matrona, and she should be able to survive as well. No buff removal cards, which is probably a little bit silly of me to actually use the Meliodas ultimate in this turn, since you can see he did have the blue card above his head, which means he is going to get the evasion in the next turn. But there we go, we go ahead and proc the revive, throw out some more Brunhold cards, get him really low, and then we'll get into this next turn. I'm pretty sure I just end up getting another turn of just bad card draw. I do think we end up playing three Brunhold cards as well, which is fortunate. It does make it so we can rush the ultimates, or if anyone dies, we can heal that back. And I mean, with those cards alone, as long as there's no evasion, we can finish off with those, we'll be fine. And at this point, I'm pretty much certain that we can actually go ahead and finish the run. Unless we were to have something in this next turn, like maybe have Matrona and Halloween Gotha die, we're pretty much settled. So I was actually super surprised that I actually went ahead and did all of these first try. Like, it's not a super, like, unlikely thing to happen, but just with my luck, you know how it is. We get the revive passive, we have him survive on a slither of HP a whole bunch of times. It's what happens around here. This point here is definitely where the King ultimate would help out, because we are just spammed with debuff cards here, and his ultimate actually gets, I think it's an extra like 10% damage for every debuff he removes, so easily would have untapped, and he also would have removed all the buffs. But removing all the buffs there with the Matrona single target card, throwing out that one there, getting us all the heals with the Brunhold, and then finishing off with the Power Strike card. But I mean, that just about does it. The little pop off there at the end. And there we go, that's the Demonic HRAESVELGR Beast Battle, the guide that I was meant to make for absolutely ages. If you guys at this point are still wondering who you should use, whether that's the Trader Meliodas or King, I would 100% recommend using the Trader Meliodas. If you haven't built, he's just a better unit for it and he will make your life a whole lot easier. You do have to play it slightly different, and maybe in stuff like the first floor, I would say maybe in like the first floor, King could be just a little bit better because you're not taking an awful lot of damage anyways, and you can just end up patiencing all the attacks. But once again, it isn't insanely difficult. Once again, of course, if you guys do have, needing help with the bird, just let me know in the comment sections down below. But there we go, just going and showing off all of the rolls and whatnot on my gear. Could definitely make the Matrona just a little bit stronger. There can be times where she does die just due to how many hits she is taking. It's absurd what she's capable of. She is such a good unit. But I mean, there we go. That just about does it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. Really means a lot to me, and I'll see you guys for some more Grand Cross content.